On this adventure, we're visiting the Tasmanian Transport Museum in Hobart. But first, let's get on the train to Berriedale. Let's go! The Tasmanian Transport Museum's focus is on preserving Tasmania's transport history, which includes trains, trams, buses, and more. The Tasmanian Transport Museum Society was established in 1962, first collecting a tram and then a train during the 1960s before the museum opened to the public in 1983. The station buildings were relocated from the former Newtown station and restored, whilst the signal station box was originally from the Botanical Gardens. Starting in December 2025, the Tasmanian Transport Museum began running extended train rides to Berriedale and back. As there is no turntable at Berriedale, the M5 steam locomotive does the trip to Berriedale and a diesel locomotive does the trip back. Previous to this, the museum was running limited train rides to Grove Road from Elwick Road. The line that's used was once part of Tasrail's suburban line. Freight trains have not operated on the line since 2014. As a result, a lot of the level crossings have been removed from the streets of Glenorchy and other suburbs. But as we go past where the stations were previously or approximately where they were, you'll see signs indicating where they were. Under the Hobart Heritage Rail Project, the Tasmanian Transport Museum is planning on running trains between Glenorchy and Granton. They have met the first two objectives of their plan, first being able to run trains on the train line leased from the Tasmanian Government between Elwick and Grove Roads, and the second objective running trains to Berriedale. The next goal is for the Transport Museum to extend their lease on the rail corridor to include Granton, then extend train operations to Chigwell or Claremont. If the Heritage Project is successful with its goals, I can actually see this being quite popular with locals and tourists alike, especially if there will be an added capability to allow passengers off and on near Mona. That said, there's still a lot of work to do to get to that end goal, but it's an exciting prospect nonetheless. The Tasmanian Transport Museum is situated in Anfield Street, Glenorchy, and is open on Sundays from 10:30am to 3:30pm. Trains run every first and third Sunday, and heritage bus rides run on the last Sunday of each month. Cost of admission and a train ride is $18 for adults. If you are visiting on the Heritage Bus Day, admission and a bus ride is $16. If you're just checking out the museum, it's $12 entry. Tickets are available online from the Tasmanian Transport Museum's website. If you don't have your own car, there are metro buses from the Hobart CBD to Glenorchy about every 30 minutes on a Sunday. The grounds between the buildings is mostly flat, so it is pretty easy to move around with a pram or a walker or wheelchair. Some of the train carriages are somewhat difficult to get into, but the volunteers will help where possible or direct you to a more accessible entrance. I have to say that the information on the Transport Museum's website about accessibility and what to expect at the museum is absolutely top-notch. I highly recommend that if you're planning on visiting, checking it out as it's very well detailed. I'll put the whole trip between the museum and Berriedale and back on our second channel, and link it in the description box and pin post below. Now let's head back and check out the rest of the museum. Now, you may be confused, but this is a legitimate double-decker tram, and Hobart was actually the only city in Australia to run double-decker trams. However, due to our terrain, the double-decker trams did struggle going up hills, so single-level trams were introduced. Trams ran between the Hobart CBD and South Hobart and Proctors Road, the CBD and Sandy Bay, and from the CBD through North Hobart to Lena Valley, Glenorchy and West Moona, which was known at the time as Springfield. Post-World War II, Hobart Tramways, which was owned by Hobart City Council, was experiencing financial issues, and they began replacing trams with trolley buses, with a decision being made in 1950 to begin removing trams altogether. But the state government intervened and started the Metropolitan Transport Trust, or MTT, which is now the modern-day Metro Tasmania. MTT took over both Hobart and Launceston's tramways. The tram network would ultimately meet its demise in December of 1960, but not before a major accident in April 1960. On 29 April 1960, the 131 tram was struck by a lorry at the intersection between Elizabeth and Warwick Streets, causing brake failure for the tram. As a result, the tram began rolling backwards down Elizabeth Street in the middle of evening peak hour traffic. Some of the tram passengers managed to jump off before the tram gained speed to somewhere between 65 and 80 kilometres an hour, before colliding with the 137 tram and instantly killing the tram conductor Raymond Donahue, and injuring about 40 of the passengers. As well as the example of the double-decker tram, the museum has a couple of single-level trams and a couple of trolley buses. You can climb onto the double-decker tram and walk through, and there's also a couple of interactive displays as well. The Transport Museum also has a couple more trains that are in the shed near the train tracks, including a Q-class locomotive and a rail car. There's also old timetable signs, and yes, trains used to run from Hobart to Mountfield National Park. Next to the rail line is the restored signal station box, which was originally from the Botanical Garden station. It gives you an idea of how many line changes were required to ensure things ran smoothly. Next door is the station building. This was moved from Newtown Station to the site of the Transport Museum. As well as being a great example of how stations looked in Hobart, it also displays a number of old train station signs and more information about some of the trains that were operational in Tasmania. What I found really interesting is that by train it took around 6.5 hours to get from Hobart to Devonport via Longford, Deloraine and Rowton. Compared to now, if you did the same trip by bus without going through Longford or Rowton, the trip would take around 4 hours and 50 minutes. The Transport Museum also holds several vintage buses on site, including from Volvo, Leyland and Bedford. The most striking one is the blue and silver bus that was part of Trans Australia Airlines bus fleet. At the back of the bus shed, there is a diorama which has several trains making its way around. There is also a display of old Tasman Limited advertising material and brochures. I actually kind of wish that they had reprints of the See Tasmania poster, as I think it would be really cool to have as a postcard or a poster. The final exhibit is the Tasmania Fire Museum, which houses 3 fire engines and examples of firefighting equipment throughout the history of the Tasmanian Fire Service. This is an offshoot of the museum that is in the fire station building in Hobart, which is only open by appointment. Like Donna River Railway, which we visited in our previous video, the Tasmanian Transport Museum is run predominantly by volunteers, and without their hard work, there would not be this wonderful archive of Tasmanian transport history. All the volunteers were super friendly and happy to answer any questions. Including the train ride, we spent about 2 hours at the museum and really enjoyed it. Whilst it's becoming more and more likely that Tasmania will continue its reliance solely on buses for public transport in the future, the Tasmanian Transport Museum is a wonderful reminder of how transport helped to build and shape Tasmania. If you've gotten this far into the video, make sure you give it a like as it does help a lot. If you want to check out our video about Don River Railway, that is linked here, as well as the complete trip to Berriedale and back. I'll also link the train playlist in the description box and pin post below if you want to see our other train adventures. Thanks for watching.